Hi, I'm Steve Tucker, the producer of the event today, and I wanted to share a few housekeeping items. As you know, we're using a Zoom webinar platform, so only the host and experts will be on video. If you would like to make comments or ask a question, you can type it in the chat box below. Good if you can locate it before we get started. The session is being recorded and will be available to watch and share later this week. And now I have the pleasure of introducing you to the Aspen Brain Institute's founder and president, Glenda Greenwald.
Hey, thank you, Steve. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited. I'm saying hello to people all over the United States. I know that 350 people have registered for Ed's talk, Ed Harrold's talk, our first and second Zoom series. We're really excited to have Ed, and I want to welcome everybody to our Aspen Brain Institute Expert Speaker Series. We're offering this free series and hoping that this series will be the foundation of our building a global online community focused on brain health. Our objective is not just to reach a lot of people, like hundreds or thousands of people, which we will, but it's to see how many people we could help. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank Lugano Diamonds for their generous support as our national underwriter, and they are making possible this free Zoom series, that it be free and worldwide. Thank you so much to Lugano Diamonds. I'm also thanking Alpine Bank, our greatest local community bank in Aspen. And they have been our supporter for at least 5 years. So thank you so much to Alpine Bank. We're also thankful to our friends at Brain Futures, who are a group who are translating science to advance human potential, and also to our friends at the American Federation for Research on Aging. We thank all of that support. First, I'm going to tell you about 1 to 2 minutes about Aspen Brain Institute, who we are, and then I'm going to jump right away to our expert speaker, Ed Harrold. So first about Aspen Brain Institute. At the Aspen Brain Institute, we are dedicating our lives and our work to making sure that this is the last generation of 60 to 95-year-olds who are decimated by Alzheimer's and other dementias, for which there are no cures. At Aspen Brain Institute, we believe that this is one of the greatest global challenges of our time. And with that in mind, we have decided that our great aspirational goal, our great mission, is to create a brain healthy planet. And that's what this series is all about. In this time of COVID, we're producing this expert speaker series, a free series. And the whole public is invited, and there will be hundreds, actually, as I said, 350 people have signed up for this today's program with Ed. We don't know how many will attend, but 350 people registered. The purpose of the series is to increase brain health literacy and to share access to the top minds and the best science-based information on brain health. So with all that said, I am now pleased to introduce our terrific speaker, Ed Harrold. Ed is an author, a leadership coach, an educator, a motivational speaker, and a thought leader. He teaches simple breathwork strategies for optimal cognitive and emotional brain health. Ed started as a professional athlete 25 years ago. He later studied yoga and yoga breathing quite intensely. He then decided to merge these techniques and take all of these techniques off the mat, as he says, and out into the real world. And he was working towards peak athletic performance and optimal mood and cognition. Well, I met Ed about 10 years ago when he was doing a coaching stint in Aspen. I quickly realized what a great asset he was and is, and he spoke often for us at our live Aspen Brain Health event in the summers. Ed is actually a pioneer in the science of breath work, and especially in various applications to real life. Now, others have followed in his work, but right now, let's hear from the master. Ed, take it away.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, Glenda. It's great to be back with the Aspen Brain Institute and a huge national audience that you've cultivated. So today my intention is to share some information about breath awareness, your ability to control your breath, mindfulness, and our ability to make the best choices possible as we move through our daily challenges, while at the same time, not aging the brain, trying to keep the brain as lubricated and open and working with whole brain messages where we can feel and think equally and make the best choices possible. We're going to go through a little breathing experience in a moment or two. What I want you to focus on predominantly here is the length, depth, and pace of your respiration. The length, depth, and pace of your respiration will be a reflection of the pace of your mind. And keeping the mind coherent with your heart, your emotional intelligence, your microbiome, and the various centers of the brain is huge. The spine, the health of our spine, plays a huge role in regard to how the brain prepares the moment for us. And when we can begin to control the length, depth, and pace of our breathing, we can strengthen the abdominal diaphragm muscle, which acts as a dual muscle. Number one, it draws fresh energy from the external environment into the lungs of the body. And the diaphragm also is one of the primary muscles of stability. It keeps our lower body movements and patterns efficient, and there isn't a lot of excessive movement in the lower body. Actually, the diaphragm has tendons which connects to your psoas muscles, and the psoas muscles play such a huge role in regard to rhythm. And when we can find good rhythm around the breath, we can find great rhythm in the body, and when there's good rhythm in the body, we can thank the brain for that. So to begin, let's simply let our eyes close for several moments and tune your awareness to the flow of energy coming in and out through your nostrils. All the breathing I'm going to lead today is going to be through the nostrils. I invite you to keep the mouth closed, not letting any air out through the mouth unless you have to or you feel a little lightheaded. So just draw your awareness to your inhale. And as you inhale, I want the belly to swell away from the spine. And then as the inhale evolves up to the collarbone, you'll feel your ribs expand like gills and your lungs will expand to their full 5-liter capacity. There's tendons and muscles around your eyes, and we strain these a lot to see things as we age, as the optic nerve cannot pick up the information as quickly as it could years ago. So if you could just relax all the energy around your eyes, the muscles you use to move your eyes, and reset your eyes as far back into the socket as you possibly can. And then separate your teeth a fraction of an inch. Release and relax your low jaw, free of tension, and allow the top of the tongue to rest on the upper palate and the tip of the tongue behind the 2 front teeth. This keeps the maxilla open so the nasal airways can be as wide as possible to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. And then press into the earth and just feel the support that the lower body creates for the brain in staying grounded in the information that's coming in from the external environment. You want to use the body to help you think. Now, on the process of exhale, just as simply as possible with care, draw the navel back to the spine and just feel that wonderful flush of energy from the gastrointestinal organs. Ideally, we'd like you to exhale longer than your inhale stimulating a parasympathetic response in your autonomic nervous system. Try to find some rhythm to that where you have a slow motion inhale. And the slower you inhale, notice you stabilize the mental world for this moment. And then exhale to completion. Finish your exhale. There's a lot of energy in our exhale. Remember CO2. There's 2 oxygen molecules in that exhale. And you want to really ride that exhale down and relax your body-mind connection. On the next breath, after the inhale, hold your breath in for a 2 count. And see if there's a meditative reflective state there for you in the brain. And then exhale slowly through your nose. Hold the breath out for a 2 count and see if there's a meditative reflective state in the brain for you that you can attach yourself to. Just a couple rounds. Slow motion inhale. Hold the breath in for 2. Slow motion exhale. Hold the breath out for 2. For those of you familiar with the ocean sounding breath from the yoga tradition, allow that contraction to take place at the top of your trachea where you engage the epiglottis, and you will create an extra filtration, removing airborne pollutants from the environment so that it doesn't get into your body and strengthens your neuroimmune system. And then just let the body breathe on its own. Straight spine, open mind, relax your brow. Turn your hands palms up and stretch your fingers as wide as they can go. And on the next inhale, take your hands out to the side. Let them slowly come up overhead. Interlace your fingers and hold the breath in several seconds if you can. Squeeze your abdomen, lift your ribs if you want a little more energy. And then slowly on the exhale, let the hands move away from each other, trace across the ceiling, down the opposite walls, and back to the starting position on your legs and pause. Inhale, 1 more round. Take the arms out and up. Open the chest cage, open the shoulder girdle, clasp the hands, stabilize inside, stop breathing, squeeze your belly and lift your ribs, and really get a lot of energy moving through your enteric nervous system. And then release it slowly through your nose. Exhale to completion. Hands will come down. Now in the next breath, stabilize your mind. Be as clear and focused as possible, but completely relaxed in your present moment. Remember, when we meditate on the breath, meditation always allows for imperfection. So that was some slow motion breathing with a little bit of breath retention. It's a very anaerobic type of activity that strengthens the breathing muscles, inspiratory and expiratory. It strengthens the cardiovascular system, the heart rate variability, and our blood pressure. And it also stabilizes our neurochemistry so that the body is always reducing inflammation. It's burning fat, inflammation, not storing fat. Now, an aerobic way to breathe, in other words, we can breathe aerobic activity right here in this chair. We don't need to go out for a hike or a bike or a run. We can do some breathing through the nose very rapidly. And this is a technique I like to use to break up stress during the day, take a little brain break, you move away from the technology, you clear your mind and body, and then you re-engage for peak performance. The technique is very simple. We're going to bring our hands up to the shoulders, and we're going to make a soft fist here. And we're going to press our feet firmly down into Mother Earth and just feel that support of the planet below us. Now, on the inhale, you're going to stretch your fingers up towards the sky, open your armpits, reach up as high as you can. And then on the exhale, you make a soft fist and you pull the hands back to the starting position. We're going to do 10 of those. It's about 1 round per second. Relax your face. Straight spine, shoulder blades back and down. 10 rounds of this technique. Inhale, reach up, exhale, pull down 10 times. Here we go. Relax. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out through your nose and hold the breath out several seconds. And on the next inhale, draw that fresh energy in, feel that fresh oxygen. And then hold the breath in several seconds. Move your awareness into the center of your brain and just relax into the information that's there for you right now. When the body calls for breath, bring your right thumb up, close off your right nostril, and exhale out the left nasal channel. Inhale up the left nasal channel, close off, release, exhale out the right nasal channel. Inhale up the right nasal channel, close off, release, exhale out the left. One more round, inhaling up the left nostril. This nasal channel on the inhale is parasympathetic. Close off, release, exhale right. Inhale up the right nasal channel, and this nasal channel is sympathetic. Close off, release, exhale left. Bring the hand down and just feel that first sweet, unrestricted, loving breath. And notice how easy it is to inhale now and how much that brain loves a smooth, uninterrupted, not bumpy, not jumpy inhale. It really allows the various departments of the brain to help us create the best responses possible internally in our subjective states and externally in our objective states. When we relax the face, when we breathe slowly, there's 12 pairs of cranial nerves that are part of our sensory perception, how we're reading the environment. What is our perception of what is going on here? The first cranial nerve runs directly into our nostrils, and it picks up the sense of smell. The second and third cranial nerve are all around our eyes. So when we relax the air coming in and out through the nose, when we relax the energy around our eyes, these cranial nerves help us move into the present moment in a relaxed physiology and a relaxed psychology. As you release and relax your low jaw, you're sending signals to the brain that the environment that you're in is not threatening. You are safe here. And when the brain senses safety, it will naturally evolve and take information and give you an opportunity maybe to rewire how the brain operates when that particular subjective or objective state comes to your mind's eye. The master cranial nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, which is our vagus nerve. And when we begin to control our breathing through our nose, which is a parasympathetic act, when we breathe through the mouth shallow, it's a sympathetic act. The air that is changed in the top of the lungs from the mouth breathing, it's very harmful to our blood pressure and heart rate. And when the heart rate and blood pressure are up, the brain moves into a stress environment, and sometimes thoughts move too fast for us to make the best choices possible. So when you're breathing through your nose, you're going to have a parasympathetic response. The physiology of the lungs indicate that the lower lobes of the lungs are imbued with parasympathetic, oxygen-rich nerve endings, hemoglobin-rich. So you're keeping the pH level of your blood steady, and you're burning fat, and you're improving circulation. Breathing with the ocean sound in your throat amplifies vagal tone. And the vagus nerve is the master connector between the microbiome, the gut, with the brain in the head. And when the vagus nerve turns on, there's a relaxation response as we merge with the present moment. And if we need to change our reaction to the information based on new information, it's seamless for the brain to do this. So taking care of the cranial nerves, relaxing your face as much as you can during the day, helps the brain help us make the best choice as possible with our choosing mind, using our free will. When we strengthen the diaphragm muscle, which is the primary muscle of inhale, you're keeping the spine straight. And when the spine is straight, we have more energy that can be diverted from the gut up into the brain so that we can grow and evolve our skill sets on a daily basis. Learning how to exhale longer than you inhale is a huge tool for creating safety in the brain. In other words, if you were being chased by a bear and there was danger, you wouldn't be exhaling longer than your inhale. You'd be breathing as fast as you can to remove that danger. Well, most of the time in our life, these dangers, there's no physical risk of harm. These are thoughts. They're just thoughts. But the body responds to the thoughts as if there's an actual threat there. So you can alert your brain that it's safe to think, it's safe to feel, it's safe to grow by always exhaling longer than your inhale. This will keep you in a fat burning mode all day long. And fat is an endurance fuel. And whether you're an athlete trying to burn more fat, or whether you're a mental endurance athlete at the workstation, we want to create the same physiology in the body. And we know when we can control our physiology, we have a better command over our psychology. When you think about how the brain works with breath, the breath and the brain are closely linked. There's respiratory centers in the brain that all it does your entire life is report back to the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, the amygdala, the length, depth, pace of your breathing. One of the goals of the breathing is to get yourself into a space where you're taking somewhere less than 12 breaths per minute. When you're taking less than 12 breaths per minute, you're signaling a parasympathetic relaxation response, not just through the body, but through the brain. When you begin to strengthen this diaphragm muscle, there's a lot of dopamine, there's a lot of serotonin that allows us to relax and feel good about ourselves in our limbic system and in the psychology centers of the brain. When you think about a stressful event in your life, the hardwire of the old brain, as soon as there is an event that triggers uncertainty or fear, it immediately fires off our HPA axis, our hypothalamus, our pituitary glands, our adrenals fire cortisol and adrenaline. Immune function shuts down, digestion stops. All the energy moves out into your muscles and bones to either fight the intruder or move away from the intruder. The idea here through the breathing is to rewire our brain. And my theory is, if we can continue to breathe slowly and feel these threatening thoughts at a much deeper level, we can transcend that old animal brain of the HPA axis, and we can come to the moment with compassion rather than competition. We can train the hippocampus to fire off with the pineal gland, and the pineal gland secreting serotonin. So there's more compassion for the struggle first. And then if we can't solve the problem with conscious communication and compassion, then we can always revert back to the HPA axis and deal with it the way that we were doing it thousands of years ago. But we can rewire our brain to respond to what is the environment, the pressures of our life, turning off that animal brain and turning on the higher cortexal regions of the brain by slowing the breath down. You can trick the brain into thinking that you're safe, because you are safe. These are simply thoughts. And as you begin to improve your breathing, as adults, all information and memory, or a good part of it, runs through the hippocampus. It's a higher cortexual region of the brain. When there's a lot of stress and anxiety, uncertainty and negativity in our life, it fires off the amygdala. And the amygdala is designed to get us out of trouble quickly, to create paradigms to get us out of problems and get back into safety quickly. When you're breathing unconsciously, or you're shallow breathing through your mouth, you have this new information come in through your sense organs into your hippocampus. And instead of the hippocampus organizing it and sending it back to the cerebellum, it checks in with the amygdala to see if you're safe. And in that, we create this vicious feedback loop between new information and uncertainty, new information and fear. One of the ways I want you to unplug from that amygdala hippocampus feedback neural loop is to notice that you've been triggered, something unpleasant has entered your mental space, and the first thing you do is you go to the nose and you slow the breath down. And as you slow the breath down, you're going to stabilize your heart rate and your blood pressure. As you slow your breath down and the heart rate stables, neurochemistry will promote growth. It won't revert back into that amygdala area because it knows you're safe. And the subconscious fear is stored in inflammation, subconscious imprints in the body. In the yoga world, in the ancient times, it was called samaskaras, or frozen energy that's blocked in our soft tissues and cells. In the modern world, they're called neuropeptides. It's basically the same thing. So as you begin to feel new information come into you, breathe as slowly as you can and help that mind-body connection help you transform events in your life that have no bearing on the amazing person who you are today. So stay with this breathing as much as you possibly can as you move through the day, because it's all about efficiency when it comes to the brain. The brain loves quality, and producing quality in our physiology will, without a doubt, produce high levels of quality in the psychological world. One of the things I really want you to take from this program today is to try to resist mouth breathing. If you need to breathe through your mouth, whether it's exercise induced or if it's a stressful event, whether at work or at home, you can breathe quickly through your nose 2 or 3 rounds. And in that, you're going to get fresh oxygen up into the brain area very, very quickly. The exhale is going to be quickly, so you're getting higher levels of carbon dioxide, which threatens the brain, out of your body quickly. So, you know, when you're stressed in athletics or work, you don't really have time for that long inhale and long exhale all the time. And rather than dump that energy back out into the field where it just comes out, the spine rounds, the kidneys flare open, the mind is on guard for the next inhale because it senses threat, there's not as much stability there. Just breathe quickly 2 or 3 times through your nose, and that'll reset your autonomic function, which will communicate with your central nervous system that you're okay, and then that will communicate with your immune system that you can continue to burn fat, which is really, really important. We need inflammation, and inflammation is a great energy, but when we have too much of it, we become sluggish. And when we become sluggish in the gut, we become sluggish in the brain. So the idea here is to use the breathing as a tool to help the brain, help us be as vibrant as possible. Save the mouth breathing for really life-threatening emergencies where there's imminent danger to the health of the body. Try to use a little quick nostril breathing rather than dump the air out through the mouth, and see if you can get your heart rate down. Get grounded in the physical brain and begin to deliver professional services to yourself at an extremely high level with the higher cortexual regions of your brain. So life is really all about breath. It's the first thing that we did, and it's the last thing we're going to do. To stall aging in the brain, we don't want to overheat the brain. And one of the ways that we can keep the brain cool and we can keep it flowing is to continue to consciously introduce to your brain slow motion breathing. Let the brain begin to see that what you're selling is benevolent to keeping the brain healthy and taking these senior diseases and pushing them way off into the distance so that it doesn't interfere with the great work you're trying to achieve for yourself, your family, loved ones, and coworkers. The last technique I want to share with you today is just a really simple technique. If you've awakened in the middle of the night, the melatonin secretions usually stop around 2 o'clock. And if we've had a day that's filled with a lot of pressure or a lot of stress, we've probably taken more breaths than we needed to, and we filled the body with acidity, adrenaline, and cortisol. And it's difficult to get that out of the system once it shows itself. So if you've awakened in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, I got so much to do tomorrow and I'm going to toss and turn and it's not going to be a great day tomorrow. One thing I want you to notice is one of the reasons why you've awakened in the middle of the night is you'll notice that the left nasal channel is more open than the right. The left nasal channel on the inhale is sympathetic and brings adrenaline and cortisol and brings your heart rate up. Well, we can rechannel how that energy moves into the brain to get you back to sleep. A real simple technique is you close off the right nostril. The left nostril on the inhale is parasympathetic. The right nostril on the exhale is parasympathetic. We can turn off the sympathetic channel. We can hijack the brain into a deeper relaxation response very quickly to get a great night's sleep and then go out the next day and make it the best day of your life. So the technique for me is usually 5 to 10 rounds and I'll fall completely back to sleep. I'll close off my right nostril and I'll inhale slowly up the left nasal channel. And then I'll close off the left and I'll exhale slowly out the right to completion without strain. And then I'll close off the right, open the left. And then I'll inhale up the left. It's a slow motion inhale. Close off, release, exhale right. And get that exhale going because that's that fat burning on that exhale from the lungs. So the technique is very simple. It's inhale left, exhale right. Go as slowly as you can. You don't want to agitate the mind. Sleep is so important to our brain. The brain is organizing itself at night from all the activities that have taken place during the day. The brain will go back into the cerebellum and store it in different file cabinets and bookshelves so that we have it available to us so that tomorrow we're more aware of our skill sets than we were today. But if we're not getting a good night's sleep, what it really affects is the brain. So do that nostril breathing, left nostril inhale, right nostril exhale, and you'll fall asleep very, very quickly. And in that, if there's any difficulty in it at all to get the mind to cooperate with it, you can control your mind. How do you do that? At the end of the inhale and at the end of the exhale, you pause for just a split second. And you notice when you consciously stop breathing, the story that's ongoing in the ticker tape of your mind will stop also. And in that, you can use your mind to tap into the brain and you can agree with what the brain is producing, you can disagree, or you can simply witness and observe it as a neutral observer like Switzerland. You're not going to take sides. It's just information. Everything is just information. And it's how we're responding to that information cerebrally first that is either impeding a healthy brain or it is helping the brain stay young, help you continue to lead this amazing life that you're on, and it's going to get even better. So use this breathing technique to get a good night's sleep. If you feel sluggish in the morning, just reverse it. You can bring up energy very quickly, where it is simply, you would reverse that. You would inhale up the right nasal channel, and you would exhale out the left. This is going to bring up a sympathetic charge. It's a natural, organic way to spark that left prefrontal cortex into action. Most of us are using our left prefrontal cortex at work. We're creating strategies, concepts. We're working with words and numbers. So you can stoke that brain, prepare it for excellence and peak performance by simply inhaling up the right nostril, exhaling out the left nostril. And the autonomic nervous system will signal the brain into excitatory neurochemistry, which will keep you sharp and focused, but completely relaxed as you move through the peaks and valleys of your day. It was my pleasure to be with you today. I hope you've got something out of this. And Glenda, thank you so much for having me.
Ed, thank you so very much. That was brilliant. I feel giddy and strong, and I know that everything's possible, especially getting back to sleep in the middle of the night. So thank you so much, Ed.
Oh, well, thank you, love.
Well, now I'd like to have Gina Murdoch and I ask Ed some expert to expert questions. And when we're finished, we'll open it up to all our attendees. So I'd like to introduce Gina Murdoch. Gina is the founder of the Aspen Yoga Society, the Aspen City of Well-Being. She's a certified Chopra meditation teacher, and she especially leads these fabulous Lead with Love retreats all over the world now. She is also an esteemed member of our Aspen Brain Institute Board of Directors. So Gina, why don't you go ahead and ask Ed one or two questions, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Glenda, and thank you, Ed. I do feel more alive and vital than I did an hour ago. So really grateful for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I love that we're all hanging at the Maroon Bells together. I was one of the few people probably that forgot to bring my box of Kleenexes to your presentation. So I am grateful that I had that. And I went on a hike today after researching you a little bit more. And I had a chance years ago when you were in Aspen to take a demo from you on your breathing. And the focus on the nasal breathing has been a big part of what you teach. I noticed today, and I'm a yogi. I mean, one of the background that I come from is the yoga tradition and pranayama and reaching enlightenment through that path. I remember your techniques being a little bit different for me, but I want to just focus on that idea of nasal breathing because it is part of the yoga tradition. I found it challenging to do that today on my hike, and the reason is that my left nostril is often blocked. What can people do if they're trying to do these breathing techniques, which are fairly simple, and they do come from this wonderful lineage of yoga and other things? What can they do if they're not able to breathe through their nose?
That's a great question. Number one is I invite everyone to, especially during this time of change of season, to invest in a neti pot in the morning where you can get that nasal rinse to move through your nasal channels. And once you're done with the neti pot, see if you can have some sort of a nasa oil or a type of oil you would get in a fine massage and lubricate the nostrils so that the villi in the nose are warm and moist. The second thing is when you breathe with the ocean sounding breath, and for those of you who don't know how to do it, a very simple way to do it is just take one hand up to your face, exhale through your mouth like you're trying to fog a mirror, and try to identify with your brain where you pick up that neutral tone at the top of your trachea, the top of your windpipe. You'll hear a wind sound there. Now, close your mouth, breathe through your nose, and contract that area that your brain just identified. Now, if your nostrils are clogged, if you breathe with the ocean sounding breath, notice your nasal channels will remain open, and the first awareness that you'll have of breathing is when the fresh air hits the top of the trachea. So if we're not using the ocean sounding breath and we're pulling the air in through the nose, especially at altitude, there can be stress inside the nasal channels. And you know, one nostril is always more open than the other based on what season we're in. It's called the ultradian rhythm. So one of the ways we can create a filtration process to keep the nostrils open is to breathe with the ocean sounding breath on that inhale. A lot of the yoga traditions speak about it only on the exhale, but I figure if you can take in a longer inhale, you're going to strengthen the phrenic nerve, strengthen the diaphragm, you're going to strengthen inspiratory muscles, you're going to take more air into your lungs, and where is it going to go? It's going to give you a longer exhale. And in these days that we live in, nobody is exhaling with the uncertainty that we're picking up from the environment and the catastrophe that we're all going through. So trying to breathe with the ocean sound that we use on the mats when we're hiking, and see if that keeps the nasal channels flared open. Also, keep the tongue on the upper palate so the maxilla pulls wide, and it helps that upper jawbone separate and open the turbinates in the nostrils.
That is such a great explanation. And I was trying it as you were explaining it, and I did feel more space in that region. Do you have any, in your work, do you focus at all? I know you talked really beautifully about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic as the right and the left nostril. From the yoga tradition, we associate the left side with the feminine and the right side with the masculine. Do you ever touch on that, the sun and the moon and that stuff, or is that too woo-woo for your deep scientific brain focus?
Absolutely not. I believe that science comes from spirit, and the people who spent thousands of years up in the mountains somewhere trying to become enlightened in life. And when you think about the Ida and the Pingala, these two energetic channels that come into the nostrils, and then the energy crosses and it wraps as we come down the spine, one is sympathetic and one is parasympathetic. And it's all designed to keep us in balance. And if we've ever needed a strong feminine presence in our mind, we really need it now. We need to create the type of world where we can live our truth, where we can be safe, where we can go for it and learn to communicate consciously. And when anytime you're thinking about birthing a new thought, birthing a new awareness, any type of birth, you know, I look at it as feminine. And in that, when you think about how the nostrils are deeply tied into the brain, everything runs off of what's going on right here. And the more clear we can be here, the greater courage we have, the greater ability we have to communicate without judgment or competition or labeling. So the Ada and the Pingala, there's a lot of the stuff that we studied in yoga school, actually, there's all Western science for it. It's just different words. So it's a really unique practice. And I love blending East and West thought into creating a more dynamic environment.
I'll take a question, Gina, if you don't mind. Ed, actually, I'm going to not look at my printed questions and remind you to tell us a little bit about the vagus nerve. You've always talked about it and vagal tone. And once I saw a diagram of where does the vagus nerve come from? What is it attached to? How does it touch every organ? What does that look like? And I think it gives us such a visual, if you can explain it to us a little more, about how our brain, our heart, our microbiome, and probably everything else we're doing, of course the breathing, is all connected to this. Is it a very big vein, artery, vagus nerve? It's a nerve, not a, anyway, please, Ed, let's not get with my puny explanations. Let's go to the
Oh, it's beautiful. So before I begin, there was a wonderful article I saw today written by Dr. Deepak Chopra talking about amplifying the vagus nerve in regard to the COVID-19, reducing our inflammatory response, strengthening our immune response. And yogic breathing is all about that. So it was great to see Deepak put that information out there. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It innervates C5, C6. It comes down through our cervical spine and it moves through the heart and lungs. It pierces the diaphragm and it has 10 little tentacles that go down into our gastrointestinal tract, goes into every organ in the abdomen except for our adrenal glands. So if you're in danger, you're not going to require a relaxation response. The adrenal glands are all about working with the amygdala, and it's about self-preservation. So when we do the yogic breathing and we amplify the tone of this throat area, when we amplify the phrenic nerve, which is the motor nerve of the diaphragm, a stronger electrical current will move through the vagus nerve. And in that, there's little tentacles that go into each of the organs of the abdomen. And when vagus is activated, it removes impurity from the internal walls of our organs. In other words, anything that's impeding oxygen distribution to cells and their neighbor cells so they can communicate at the highest level as possible. So when vagus turns on, the internal walls of our organs have waste in there. There's mucus, there's phlegm, there's fats. It impedes oxygen distribution to its neighbor cells. And these organs become toxic. They don't have the same vibrancy that they had when we were younger. So when you begin to do the breathing, parasympathetic breathing, and from time to time sympathetic breathing through the nose, you're amplifying vagal tone. You're removing excessive inflammation from these organs. It's much like if you've ever done a cleanse for a few days and the internal walls of your organs, which are normally involved in DEA, digestion, elimination, and assimilation, those wastes are moved out of the internal walls of these organs. And then it takes a very little energy for us to digest our food because these organs are so vibrant, our sense organs, our digestive organs. And when we use less energy for digestion, more energy is diverted up into the brain for higher levels of thinking, new awarenesses, new thought forms, neuroplasticity, letting go of yesterday, not worrying about tomorrow, and being completely engaged in the now moment, in the present moment. That's the real moment. Being as calm as you can, amplifying the vagus nerve, heart rate down, and being in the present moment, because that's the moment that you can actually affect for change. You need to be present. You can't affect what's happened 5 minutes ago. You can only change your perception. You can't interact with 5 minutes from now because it's not here yet. The idea is to be just like a young child without an ego and be completely engulfed in the opportunity in the present moment.
Great, thank you so much. It really helps. It's really, really important. I have one more. Gina, have you got another question?
Always.
Okay, please.
Well, I was going to ask Ed, you know, I live here in Aspen, just like Glenda, and it seems all my friends seem to be professional athletes here. They walk up Aspen Mountain every day, 3,000 vertical feet, climb a 14er for breakfast, maybe another one at lunchtime. So I always feel like not very athletic living here. But the truth is I am an athlete. I just happen to be hanging out with some extraordinary people up here at high altitude. I want to ask you, Ed, for a little advice on how you can help me to keep up with my friends.
Yeah, you know, that Aspen crowd, man, they are all in on the cardio. So here's the technique where we're going to combine two different yoga techniques that you're going to oxygenate your system and you're going to blow by these people and you're going to get stronger as the event unfolds, not weaker. So when you think about it, we're in cardiac duress. Just imagine, you know, you're in pain. The first thing we want to do is settle down the brain. And rather than take a big long inhale, which we're not going to be able to do, we'll use that Kapalabhati inhale, where it's just a 25% inhale, you just take that 25% inhale just to settle the brain and move the diaphragm down and connect to your lower body. Now, the key is to burn fat. How can you burn fat? There's your ocean sounding breath. So when you're hiking and you reach moments of pain, it's a quick 25, 30% inhale, settle into the brain, and then ocean sound. And that's going to stabilize the parasympathetic branch. You're going to burn, you want to burn fat because fat calorically is so much stronger than burning glucose. You have so much more fat you can burn. So give the brain what it wants. A quick Kapalabhati inhale, and then use your ocean sound on the exhale to completion. And it might only take 3 or 4 rounds of that. You'll tap into a deeper fire in the brain and body, and then you can reestablish your diaphragmatic ocean breathing.
All right, does that do it, Gina?
Yeah, I can't wait to try it.
All right. I have another question. Ed, in your new book, Body, Mind, Business, if I have the title correct.
Yes, you do. Body, mind, business.
You talk about using breath work to improve cognition states and emotional intelligence. Well, tell us what's different about the breath work in the corporate world. How does it apply?
That's a great question. What I'm trying to show folks is that you can have it all in the business world without compromising your health, with still getting a good night's sleep, not craving things that you know you shouldn't be putting in your body. And it all begins with the breathing. When you think about the breath is communicating with your workspace. It's communicating with your skill sets, your hard skill sets that you've cultivated to the career that you have today. The breath is going to help you, and mindfulness is going to help you activate your soft skills. And as we can evolve these soft skills at the workplace, when our communication can become more compassionate, when we can listen deeply to what is actually being asked of us, we can deliver a message in a short phrase, so we're not all over the place. Everyone is congruent together. One of the things that we want to do in the workplace is in the morning, when our energy level is high, is we want to work on staying on that exhale. And we want to burn fat in the morning, and we want to stay on that exhale because it gives us our parasympathetic response psychologically, and you're not wasting energy in the morning. The sun is high, the moon is setting. In the afternoon setting, we have the sun going down and the moon going up. If you've used a lot of extra energy in the morning, you're going to be depleted in the afternoon. So in the afternoon, we want to work on the inhale. We want to bring more sun energy in. So doing controlled breathing in the afternoon that brings more sympathetic action is going to keep you centered and grounded so you can deliver professional services all the way to the final bell. Most mistakes at work happen in the afternoon hours. And a lot of that happens because we've drained our energy inefficiently in the morning. We used up too much glucose, too much sugar. We become ungrounded from the microbiome, and the mind is all over the place. And we can't stay focused on the task at hand. So in the mornings, focus on your exhale. In the afternoons, focus on your inhale. And in that, you're going to be getting stronger as the day unfolds rather than weaker. And not only will you deliver professional services better to yourself and your clients, but you're also going to way outperform your competitors.
Great. Great answer. Very interesting. By the way, Ed's new book and all his books, I think, are at least noted on our landing page for Ed's presentation. And I think Ed has all kinds of ways for you to buy those books. They are really terrific. And this new one is really quite different. The breath work in the business world and all that Ed has just spoken about. I think the new book is probably really worth a read. I have a question from the audience now, and it has to do with melatonin. So I don't know if this is your field, Ed, but it may have to do with you had talked about how we go to fall back asleep in the middle of the night, but some people, of course, have trouble falling asleep. But this is the question. This person, actually, Steve, would like to know if taking melatonin supplements on an ongoing basis disrupts your body's ability to create melatonin. And he hears conflicting information on that. And I would just add, other than melatonin, which supposedly helps people sleep, especially as they age, what are some breathing techniques to fall asleep? So first, something about melatonin, and then other breathing techniques to fall asleep.
Great, Steve. That's a great question. And there is some conflicting science out there that if you take it, will the body stop secreting it? When you think about melatonin, the prerequisite for melatonin is serotonin. And serotonin is something that there's a lot more of it in our system than melatonin. The other end of the seesaw is adrenaline and cortisol. So how can we balance ourselves out autonomically to help the brain feel safe enough to have enough melatonin on supply between 10 and 2 at night, when for most of us, when it's secreted? So number one is when you awaken in the morning, first thing you do is you open your eyes and you fill your mind with gratitude that you're you. And you begin to set in motion relaxation before you move into the pressures that you know your day is going to believe or is going to allow you. Number two, during the day, you want to slow your breathing down as much as you possibly can, and you want to exhale longer than your inhale, because as you exhale longer than your inhale, the diaphragm comes up, it massages the lower lobes of your lungs, and the lower lobes of the lungs are imbued with parasympathetic, oxygen-rich nerve endings that are going to secrete serotonin. It's going to keep you calm, and you're going to burn fat instead of sugar. So early in the day, start to set in motion rhythm that's going to carry over into your sleep. If you get up in the morning and you get on ground, you start moving fast, you lose control of your breath, it's hard to stop that train once it leaves the station. So getting control of the brain and the breath early on in the day, you're going to get through the day with less breaths. Less breaths consciously is going to mean that you're going to feel safer in your brain, and there'll be less excessive or quantity thinking. You're not going to flood the brain with a lot of things that have nothing to do with what you're trying to achieve. So get the breath under control in the morning. Stay on that exhale, which is serotonin based, it's parasympathetic based. You're going to be burning fat all day long. And then when you get to the evening, you lie down in that bed and you set an intention as the brain goes from the beta waves into the alpha waves, into those beautiful theta waves. Set the intention that I would prefer to have a great restful night's sleep. And as you go unconscious into those delta waves, you set an intention, you use subtle energy while you're not in that beta space, that ego mind. You're in a more relaxed, creative space. And practicing that for a couple of weeks as you go unconscious, I think will be a valuable tool where you're going to have enough melatonin on supply on your own organically and naturally so that you can get a great night's sleep, Steve.
Wow, that sounds great. Something for a bunch of us to try. I think I have one last question from the audience. This person says, studies are revealing that attention impairment in the brain is related to dysfunctional breathing. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I totally am in agreement with that. Do you notice when we came out of the breathing that our inhale was unblocked, uninhibited? It wasn't bumpy or jumpy. I'm a firm believer that if we can do a little bit of controlled breathing, conscious breathing, and then release that. Notice when you can inhale without any interruption, when it's smooth, when it's rhythmic, when it's steady, how the brain organizes the moment for you. And you're so much deeper in the brain than just the surface of it might work, it might not work, I can't focus, all the shoulds and the coulds and the won't. So I think getting the brain in order begins on the inhale first. And that begins with getting the breath into the abdomen first, using that diaphragm to move down and swell that belly. Take in as much air as you can in the lower lobes of the lungs, which is going to trigger a relaxation response. And then as the inhale evolves a little further, you'll feel your floating ribs, the ribs that aren't attached to the sternum, pull down. And that'll massage your liver and gallbladder on the right side of your belly and the stomach and spleen on the left side of your belly. And then as the breath evolves up into the top of your lungs, you really want to get that inhale all the way up to the collarbone and get that sympathetic spark at the top of the inhale. And that's fine then because you've already created a relaxation response with the belly breathing. And this is the most efficient way to help the brain, help you remain relaxed and focused.
Wow. Ed, I want to thank you for such a great presentation. We've all learned so much, and now we've got so much to practice. I want to thank the audience for your great questions and for getting educated and updated on the new science of breath work and its impact on brain health. I want to thank again our sponsors, Lugano, Diamonds, and Alpine Bank. And I want to remind everybody about the next session. The next session will feature Dr. Sandy Chapman, director of the Center for Brain Health in Dallas, with her talk on brain optimization, a better brain, a better life. Would be next Monday, May 18th at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. You can register on our website, aspenbraininstitute.org. And by the way, Ed, your talk has been so full of information and ideas, and for me, new moments, and for Gina, maybe new moments of things we want to practice. This session is being recorded, and you can come to our website and find the record. If you want to listen for all the details to what Ed has had to say and all of the speakers, you'll find the recordings on our website. And thank you again, Ed. It's really a pleasure to see you again and hear your wisdom.
Thank you very much for having me.
Ciao, everybody.